on the other end. I know that there is healing in sharing, as I have shared my own personal story, and the wisdom comes from that experience. Why not seek the answers of life's experiences and be wiser than having to go through the pain? Join me in learning from Stories of the Soul. Hi everyone, I'm Chinua Mackenzie and I'm here with an extraordinary woman that is with us to share her even hearing a story. I am so pumped. I'm ready to go for life. I'm like, wow, I can do it. I can do it. There's nothing that is ever going to come in your way that you feel like you cannot do. Definitely. So thank you so much for everybody for coming on the Mama Knows Best show and being with us. And I'm going to introduce as well with us is Victoria. And Victoria has an absolutely amazing story and it needs to be shared, and definitely it will be inspiring. So Victoria, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, definitely. And you're called Lady Victoria Walker. So is that official, like Lord's title, Lady?
It is actually. I want people to think I just stick it on my name, but it's actually an official legal title that I have a sort of a legal document that makes me a lady by title. I'm obviously not in a noble family or a part of a nobility, but yes, I worked with a client who was is a judge, and he was able to sign off titles of nobility. It was a gift. It was actually a gift. And so I took it, and then I was like, should I use it? And then my PR person at the time was like, yeah, do it. It just set you apart. So I've kind of stuck with it. Some people think it's Ponzi. Some people think it's like, but I believe in the concept of a lady is a sovereign, somebody who is the ruler. A sovereign is a ruler of their destiny and of their life. And I really believe that is what I do and what I am. So I'm a lady.
Oh, Lady Victoria, beautiful. So Lady Victoria, you're a digital business strategist, a fintech entrepreneur. And I have to say, what was fintech? What does fintech mean?
Yeah, so it's anything to do with finance and technology, which is finance has been a big part of my career, my background, and still sort of is. So it's anything to do with finance and technology.
That's excellent. A mentor, a certified flow consultant. What's a flow consultant?
So this is a really important piece to kind of the overall message and what I share, especially with entrepreneurs, especially with female entrepreneurs, and especially Black female entrepreneurs, which is about finding flow. So flow is that sweet spot wherever you're working or doing something where it's not too challenging, where you're stressed, and it's not too boring, where you're like, it's just not stimulating you. And anytime we find that we get into the flow state, now a lot of athletes get into this state when they're kind of in peak performance, it's where we're basically in flow, like time loses itself, and we're kind of immense in our job. So part of what I do is help entrepreneurs find how to find their financial flow. So what is it in your business that you really love doing, that you can always do and continue to do, and how can you outsource the things that take you out of flow, which puts you into stress, burnout, overwhelm, and things like that. So I help people find flow, which brings them financial flow usually.
Oh, that's it. Does the flow extend to children as well? Because I need the flow with my children, like, come on, get with the flow, boys, come on. Yeah, definitely. So as well, helping female leaders and entrepreneurs to create alignments in their life with business, without self-sacrifice. And that's one thing that I have definitely talked about. And you kind of think, how do you balance between being an entrepreneur, a mother, all these beautiful things, and overgiving and burnout. So thank you so much for joining us on the Mama Knows Best show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I really am.
So the reason this is Stories of the Soul, and basically the reason why Stories of the Soul is here, I just find that between us all, we're not speaking and sharing our journeys. And I feel like there's someone out there has been through exactly what you've gone through, and hold the wisdom and the, you know, those tools or the things that you could use to get through a particular experience quicker. So this bit inspired from my story, I've kind of shared it on YouTube with everybody as well, and just encouraging women and men to speak. And Story of the Soul is being born. And so I'm really grateful for having you on the Stories of the Soul. And it's beautiful because even in our pre-talk, you know, and we're going to definitely get to that, that you've consulted, you know, with governments and on the board of a bank, and, you know, like really done amazing things, you know, and relatively, Victoria, you look very young. So
Black don't crack.
So even within your time span, you know, and still looking young, it seems like you've done and accomplished a lot. And one thing I'd want you to do is just share your story from, you know, where you came from, your journey, you know, the strives and the things you had to go through and push through to then, you know, produce or to be able to stand in your, you know, in your present or your destiny and who you are today.
Yeah, so I mean, I think my journey started at a point where I think for every woman, and welcome everyone that's coming in. I can see a few people that are here. I think for okay, well, I'll speak about my personal kind of journey, and my journey, I guess, and every woman's journey starts from her grandmother and her mother, and in that sort of lineage, both my grandmother experienced tremendous domestic violence and abuse, which had an impact on my mother, who went into her own marriage where there was domestic violence and abuse, and that led for me to go into, and at quite a young age, I was in a relationship. My life was chaotic anyway, because when you're raised in a household where my mom was being abused more psychologically and financially and physically, but a lot of psychological, financial abuse and manipulation, and then sexual abuse on me. And so I grew up in Canada with my stepfather and my mother. And after all these things came out, I was about 11, 12, I was sent to live in England with my father, my biological father, who I hadn't really known very well. So growing up was really difficult and interesting. And, you know, I grew up in quite a strict Christian home, which was, you know, again, women, I mean, I grew up in how I couldn't wear trousers, couldn't watch TV. It was very, very, very strict. So I was very limited in what I believed was okay, even just me being okay being a female. I think anyone who's been through any sort of abuse often blames themselves. They often think that I'm the reason why this person violated me and I'm wrong and I'm bad, especially as a child, especially as a young person. So growing up, I grew up with a lot of depression. I was diagnosed and put on Prozac at age 12. Wow. I just never could function and cope. I tried to commit suicide when I was 13, you know, so I was a child that was quite depressed. Didn't even really know what depression was, just knew that I didn't want to live. I was tired all the time, and I was always upset, always, you know. And then as I got older, because I was quite vulnerable as well, and the area that I lived in. So I've gone from being like, you know, going to a private school in Canada, living in this Christian, really kind of restricted, kind of almost cultish environment, to moving to like a council estate where there's like drug dealers and all sorts of things. So it's like I've gone out of one world of like being really, really confined and limited to like the most exposure, and that exposed me to a different lifestyle that I wasn't really, you know, familiar with. And then a lot of stuff happened to me during that time, and I want to talk about this because I've never talked about this so much publicly, but I know this is a big issue. And for me, when I was 15, 14, 15, we were being groomed by older men, whether it was to do things, illegal things that we shouldn't carry things, hold things, you know, be groomed with money and things like that. So when I was 15, I ended up meeting somebody, a guy that I thought, he was going to love me and take care of me and make me happy and all this stuff. And just to go back a little bit, because everyone's like, well, how would you be with someone at 15? During the period where I was with my dad, he was a victim of a very, very vicious attack. He was stabbed 17 times and nearly died. Well, pretty much did die, but he survived the attack. But mentally and emotionally, he was never the same person again. And so he couldn't take care of me after the attack. So I was like in children's homes, foster parents, didn't live with neither my mom or my father at that point. And so I think if you're a young woman, doesn't have a mother around, doesn't now have a father around, the only thing that you're seeking is that kind of comfort, like security, and that, someone to look after you, because you feel quite vulnerable. I did.
Yeah.
That was like my experience. I felt very vulnerable in the world. So when I met this guy, he was like 20, I was like 15, he was 20, a bit older than me, he had his own place. And, for me, it was like an escape to kind of get away from what was going on at home. I didn't recognize my dad, like he was just a different person. So I left home when I was 15 and moved in with my boyfriend, this guy who I thought was going to be, the love of my life. And he ended up being an abuser. He ended up being a major abuser and did some horrific things to myself. And I got out of that relationship just by the hook of my teeth, because this man brutally attacked me so bad. They thought I would die from my injuries. I had like broken jaw, swelling on the brain. I was in hospital for weeks. It was a really horrific ordeal. And then about 6 months after, his girlfriend after me, he killed her. So I was like really, 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 really lucky to escape that ordeal. But what it did is it left me even more broken, given all the stuff that I'd gone through from, my childhood, what happened with my dad, now this, then I had a baby as well. I gave birth to this man's child. And I really struggled. I struggled mentally, I struggled emotionally. And it got to a point where I just couldn't really cope. I didn't really understand much about how our minds work, trauma. I didn't know any of this stuff. And then one day I was really fortunate to meet a mentor, meet somebody who became my mentor. And they helped me to channel my energy and my ideas, because it was somebody for once who told me, you know what, your life has been like this up until this point, but it doesn't always have to be this way. And I was about 17 at the time. And he told me, you can create, like, you're so young, you can create anything you want. Like, you can have anything you want. You can be anything you want. And no one had ever told me that ever in my life. Wow. So to hear those words, and he seemed to really believe in me. And I was like, I believe it. And from that day, he was an entrepreneur. He's like, okay, I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I do. Like, find your passion, find what you're into. So he gave me some books. I read The Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I was like 17. Like, that was so long ago, about exactly 17 years ago. And I just started to get really inspired. And I was always quite creative, and I was always a very bright child. Like, in my GCSEs, I was just, even with what was going on, I was very brilliant, good at ideas, good at creating things. So I got into this business world, and I set up my first eBay store at 17. And basically I became an entrepreneur, and I have literally grown from that business to owning a consultancy firm where I worked with big banks, big lenders. We also VC'd and structured 7-8-figure deals. I've been to Africa and worked with, as you said before, governments and presidents in structuring finance deals for different projects in Africa. And I'm also on the board of a bank. So I'm part of an acquisition of a bank. And I also run my own fund now as well, investing into women and their businesses and helping them set up online. So I've been through this like crazy kind of beginning, and I'm in a really sweet spot in my life. And I guess for me, why I share this story and this message is because, I really genuinely believe there is nothing that is impossible if you set your mind to it. Nothing at all. I used to say when I was 17, I want to own a bank.
Yes.
I've been saying it for years, and now I say I'm part owner. I own part of the bank, but I sit on the board of a bank.
Yes.
I said I wanted to have a fund. I wanted to be able to invest in entrepreneurs because that was what I struggled with, is raising funds. Now I have a fund. Now I have access to money where I can invest into. So it's like all them things were impossible. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I did it. I couldn't even tell you how I did it. I just, God.
Oh, amazing. I hear sometimes you don't need to know how. The how would happen. You just have to say yes. And as you said, just to dream, and it will happen. So, oh, your story just like makes me understand there's nothing, as you said, there's nothing, nothing that you could just change, change your life, and you could go forward and build whatever it is you want, no matter what you've gone through. There's a change. And what was beautiful to hear that there was like your arc was a mentor said, dream and dream big. So how important do you think that someone's influence or someone saying something like that, or a mentor is to an individual?
I can honestly say the only reason how I got here was because of the people around me, the people are in my life, the people that, after I kind of took myself away from the people that weren't good for me and decided and made a decision that I'm going to surround myself with people who can feed me and I can feed them. I'm going to surround myself with people who have integrity. I'm going to surround myself with people who are smarter than me. It's like I made this decision to change my circle, and I will honestly say that probably the number one thing to your success is the 5 people you're surrounded by. Like, if I say anything that helped me was the people who, I didn't walk into these doors by myself. Yes, I did the groundwork, but it was other people that kind of said, "Oh, V, why don't you try this? Or look, I've got this for you." Or, so it's mentors and coaches and teachers have been what I would say has been my biggest investment and the most instrumental aspect to me going from where I was to where I am today.
Yeah. Wow. Would you say, because even sharing your story, you show the link between your grandmother in a in a domestic violence situation, then your mother, and then and then you ended up experiencing similar stuff. So is there like is there a link? What was that link? And for other women, is it something that we can look for and break? And how do we do that?
It's called the mother wound. The thing about being a woman and the environment, bearing in mind this is historical, the patriarchy that we've lived in, and what really inspired me, I went to Africa, and I went to Nigeria, West Africa, Ghana, and it was amazing how the same issues that we've gone through, going through, is the same thing for women out there. And domestic violence is a huge thing out there. I mean, while I was out there, at least three women were killed and murdered by their partners during my time in the place I was. We have a cultural problem, and it still exists, where because women can be depicted as the weaker or the lesser of the sex, and this is things that have been ingrained into us from childhood, and our parents, and their parents. We call it epigenetics. So the thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, even illnesses of your forefathers is passed down into each generation. And so we were raised by mothers. Now, if you've raised by a mother who, for example, like my mother was raised by a woman who probably didn't have the ability to know what her needs were in a relationship, didn't have the ability to get up and leave because she was relying on her husband, and she had 6 kids to him. So whenever a child witnesses that model of a woman staying with an abusive man, that child is likely to repeat that behavior because it's learned even subconsciously. So if a man's hitting you and your mother stayed there, and not all instances, but in some instances, that just becomes normal. It becomes how relationships should be. And even though I think my case was a little bit different, because I didn't go into this relationship really like, well, I guess it wasn't different because subconsciously I still attracted an abuser. I mean, I was quite young, yes, but I think it's just because I had witnessed And you know, like they say, law of attraction. I'm so big on, like, because I do believe on a subconscious level, if you even if you don't recognize it, you will continue to attract what you believe you deserve.
Yes. Yes.
Even if you don't know it, you know. And this is why part of my message for women who have been through, especially women who want to do business, who've been through traumatic experiences, who have had people betray them, who have had things that have knocked their self-esteem. It's going to be so difficult for you to even see your own value in your business without dealing with that.
Yeah.
Because everything you do is going to be shadowed by, you know, the trauma. And that was what I struggled with for a lot. And I couldn't understand why I kept hitting these brick walls. And it's because I never really processed that trauma at that time to really unleash the real, you know, and that's still an ongoing journey. It's a lifelong journey.
Yeah. In terms of how did you take those steps? You said you read, but did you go into saying, okay, I'm going to develop myself. I'm going on self-development courses. I'm going to sit with myself. Was there a deliberate intent to unravel all these things that have happened and to kind of get through it?
Yeah. First and foremost, I got a therapist, and I would say self-care becomes non-optional when you are a survivor of any type of trauma. It doesn't have to be just sexual abuse or domestic violence, or it could be anything, you know, you could be a betrayal, like anything what has shaken you. And I think some people think, oh, it has to be like a near-death experience. No, you know, you could be betrayed by your husband or whatever makes you feel like you're not safe is potentially a trauma. So for me, self-care is because that's what trauma is. It puts you in this fight, like you feel very vulnerable in the world, and like nobody's there to keep you safe. And I lived in that sort of place. And what it can do is put you on the flip side, which is why I believe a lot of people who are entrepreneurs have often been through trauma, because then what it makes you is super, either one side super independent and vulnerable, or super over like independent and want to do everything yourself and not depend on anybody for a job, nothing, you know, you want to do it all. You become an overachiever. And that often is the byproduct of trying to kind of protect oneself. So for me, it was definitely definitely a therapist. Like a therapist is the best investment you can ever make, I think, in your mental and emotional well-being, because that's the foundation of doing anything. And then getting like support in my business, so mental, because my business became sort of like my escape. And it was kind of a good thing because I could channel my energy somewhere, but a bad thing because it became an opposite. That's what all my life was. It's like succeeding and making money and getting these achievements and doing this and being here and being there. And I would do all this and still feel really empty and broken and unhappy. There was no amount of money I could make where I feel happy. There was no amount of publicity or amount of success. And I had to really deal with that, which is why I went away to Africa for like about a year, because all this great stuff was happening, but I was still deeply unfulfilled. And there was one thing in my life that I always wanted to do. It was just been a dream since a child. Like, I want to live in Africa.
Oh, wow. So you just went, so I'm going to go.
I went and didn't come back. I came back and said, no, I love it too much. I went back for like a whole year.
Oh, I will definitely get onto the love for Africa for sure. Would you say that as well in terms of, you know, you kind of said, you know, you started to do all the business and, you know, you was flourishing, but you're still unhappy. So happiness is not really the attainment of things, money. So what is that balance, or what is it? Could you kind of...
Can I tell you what it is?
Yeah.
It's about being true to your true vision, calling that you have, and doing things beyond yourself. Because, you know, you've got money, but once you've got the money, what is it you want to do with the money? There's only so many cars, so many nice bags, so many wigs, so many shoes, so many that you're going to buy. You're not going to get fulfillment. And the way I find my fulfillment, my biggest fulfillment is seeing somebody who is struggling with something that I know I can help them with, and being able to help lift that person up. They say, if you want to light your own fire, light the candle of somebody else's. And I've really found my fulfillment comes from watching another, especially a Black woman, especially a woman who's coming from, you know, maybe disadvantaged or traumatic background, who is striving, who is a power leader, and just helping her be able to create even more from what she has. Because I really believe women need to be wealthy. Black women especially, we deserve to have a life of luxury. We deserve to have, you know, all the things that we want. We deserve to be rich and wealthy. We deserve to pass on legacy. We deserve to send our children to the best schools. It's not just left for some. And that was one of the things I said. I don't care if I'm coming from a counselor state or whatever. I don't have a GCSE to my, I am still going to live the life that I know I deserve regardless. And that's what you have to understand. Everybody's worthy of having what they want, or what, not necessarily what they want, because a lot of people don't get what they want, but what people get is what they believe they deserve.
I love that statement.
That's what people get. And I believed, coming from where I'm coming from, teenage mom, you know, I left school with no GCSEs, nothing. You know, coming from that, I knew what I wanted regardless of that. I wasn't going to let that story stop me from the new story that I'm creating. And I think that's what a lot of people do, is like, they use the story as, well, oh, I can't do this because I've got this, or I didn't have this and I couldn't. And it's like, you make that your story. Whereas when you say, actually, despite this, I'm actually still going to do, and I'm going to work hard. And even if it takes me 10 years or 20, I'm still going to do it. And that was my mindset. I was like, whatever it takes, I'm going to do it.
I'm going to do it. Oh my gosh, absolutely amazing. And depression, you talked about depression. Would you say that the same way as you said about self-development and speaking to a therapist, how did you break that? Because you said to a point where, you know, suicidal depression, you know, what advice would you give to any woman or anyone who's suffering from depression, and how to actually, you know, see the light on the other end?
Yeah, I battled with depression all my life, most of my adult life. And the thing that for me, and this is why I say self-care is not optional, but I know when you're depressed, it can be so hard for you to even feel motivated to do anything. And what I say to anybody in that position, do not judge us, because this is what happens when you're depressed. Depressed is a place, and I do actually believe it can be chemical imbalance. I actually believe in the theory that, you know, you might not have enough serotonin and your brain's working a little bit different. But what I have noticed that is that motion and thoughts change. It changes your brain chemistry. Like, so exercise, running, even going for a walk, it actually changes releases serotonin. So it's like little things, so little tools that I do that really, 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 really keeps me grounded. And anytime I feel like I'm getting to that place, because I think everybody that gets depressed knows that there's like a couple of triggers that may happen, and it can just push you into a place of, oh, feeling exhausted, not want to get out of bed. So what I say is, have your moment, have that time. If you need to rest and your body's feeling depressed, it is your body actually saying, I need deep rest. Your body needs it. So don't feel guilty, and don't beat yourself up if you've, you know, not gotten out of bed, or you don't feel like you can. Don't, even if you do or don't beat yourself up. But what I will say is, try to just do one little thing, even if it's, I got up today and I had a shower and I put my makeup on. One of the biggest tools that I've learned is, whenever our energy feels so depleted, we've got to look at where we're losing the energy. Is it through where we're losing our power? Because that's what depression is like, it's a loss of power. And that's why you feel so tired, because the vitality is no longer in your body. And what I've realized is that there's unlimited energy around us that we can take in. So I go into nature. Even if I have to throw myself to the park, it's like, it's nature has unlimited infinity energy you can take in for you to refuel. And I think any woman who is feeling depleted, you got to look at your home space. You got to look at who's around you that's draining you, and you need to really limit those things, and you need to spend more time in a space where you can feel nourished and feel uplifted. And for me, that's nature. You know, I put my feet in the grass and I sit and I pray and I ask for whatever problems that are going on or whatever depressing me. I release it. And often when I do that, it's like I come back and I feel refreshed, and then the problem solved. Like sometimes most of my problems that maybe puts me into depression or stresses, when I let it go and let go and let God and literally say, you know, I'm not going to worry about this, I don't need to. right? It's going to fix itself. Usually the answer comes, and usually it's not even me who solves it. Somebody comes along. Or so I think when it comes to depression, a lot of depression is because you feel stressed out, no money, job, my husband, all these things. Let them go. Just whatever the issue is, let it go, and nourish yourself, whatever that takes, whatever makes you feel happy and nourished and okay, just do that. And then once you do that, step back into your place of power.
Nice, definitely. So what about how do you rewire those those thoughts of limited beliefs? There's
Meditation. Meditation is scientifically proven to rewire the neurons in your brain, because we are probably thinking over 100,000 thoughts a day. I think it's something crazy like 600,000 thoughts a day. And we're constantly being bombarded with messages. You scroll through, like it's overwhelmed, especially right now. So the brain, in order for the brain to actually rest itself, there needs to be no thoughts. And in order for you to reinforce, like people say affirmations and things like that, I believe in saying positive thoughts and repeating them. But I think the biggest thing that has helped me is having those moments where I meditate and just let go of everything and stop thinking. I know it's a bit challenging, but it's a practice. But it's proven to enable you to not be so reactive, because that's again why depression is like a habit. It's just like your wiring of your brain has been wired to react to certain triggers in a certain way. Whereas when you meditate, your brain, it has a gap, it has a chance to, rather than being impulsive, just like when someone makes you angry, it's like sometimes it's like a rush of like, energy where you want to react rather than respond. So, with meditation, it kind of allows you to have this gap so that you have that space to actually choose how you're going to deal with this. Am I going to sit in bed all day, or am I going to actually get up? And, the mind is such a powerful tool. Like, we do have power in our mind. Like, mindset is everything. And, I think for me, if you can just spend 5 minutes a day, even 10 minutes a day, you will see major improvements after a month or so on when you meditate. It's such a key tool.
Oh, wow. Do you know what's beautiful? We've talked about all, the progression, how to change. I want to know what is happening right now as well for you. And you talked about having a fund, you talked about, consulting, people, governments, like.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So there's a couple of cool, exciting things. I mean, I have just recently launched, and when I say fun, I'm angel investing. So I wouldn't to call it. Well, it's a personal fund. It's a fund that I'm using money to invest into women who have a great vision and a great business in the e-commerce and digital product space. I'm also heading up a new digital bank in West Africa. So I'm part of the board of management and was one of the fundraisers helping this bank. We've been working together for over a year or so now. I met them while I was in Nigeria. And I'm also the ambassador. I've been titled the ambassador, so international ambassador of Osun State with one of the royal families. So I'm working again. So that's kind of like looking at how we're going to bring tourism into, obviously COVID-19 kind of stopping us a little bit. But how are we going to bring the African diasporans and those of African descent into Yoruba land? So we're talking like Ile-Ife, the cradles. There's so much amazing culture. Like this is apparently where humanity first, that's the history, the Black people, the Yoruba land where the first Black people came from, and the culture. So my real mission right now is working with the businesses and the women that I help with digital strategy, marketing, business growth, financing, and things like that, and also helping and showing other women who want to do this, because right now is the time. If you're going to set up a business, the digital space. I mean, I've just watched a girl make $1 million in 8 minutes flat. And I was like, wow,
how happened?
Yeah, no, but between some of the things that I've seen and even some of the campaigns we've done, and it's not because I've trying to move away from talking about money a lot, because money is just a tool, and it's what it really fuels me is I'm really about entrepreneurs that have a business with a mission behind it. Like I see business as a mission. My business, the money that I make is to reinvest into other women, and it's to build communities. We want to build schools, we want to build hospitals, we want to do things, for our communities. And that's why I'm very big on wealth empowerment, especially women in wealth, especially Black women in wealth, because we've got a lot of problems in our communities. And people complain we don't have the money, but we do have the money. We are the money. Wealth is not what you have, it's everything else but that. They say the rich person is not how much money they have, but when they lose all their money, what they're left with.
Yes.
I lose every penny in my bank, but I know I've got 15 or 10 contacts I can ask and say, look, I need to borrow £2 million tomorrow. Would you? And they'll do it, So that's wealth. It's your connections, it's your network, it's your knowledge, it's your IP, it's your skill. And what I realized is that my value was never, because I used to place it on my money, or how much money I had, and then if my bank account wasn't this big, I'd feel worthless. And then one of my mentors was like, you're looking at this all wrong. Your wealth is your track record, your reputation, your skills, your contacts, everything else but the money. Those things are what create the money. So your job is to build a presence and a garden so that people come to you. And that was what I did in Africa. People coming to me, people still come to me to do stuff, not because of anything other than I get results. My heart's in the right place. I'm good at what I do. And I'm here to help, I'm here to help.
In service, everything. The biggest businesses in the world that makes millions and billions of pounds is in providing great services to people. So I hear you. Has anyone got any questions as well? Because we've had an absolutely amazing journey. So you can let me know your questions. And then Lady Victoria Walker would lovely, I know you would definitely answer them. And I'm just so inspired by your story. I'm so grateful that we've met, we're talking, and I'm just praying that people or anyone that's in a rut or feels that life has been so unfair to them is able to see your story, hear it, and just say, you know what, there's no limits and that doesn't define me, and I could break through, I could change I could rewrite, my story. We've got one that says definitely, we got Amani says, very inspiring, and you've got a lovely rose there. We've got as well, Sonia Edjo says, relaxation, recharge, and rejuvenate is a must as well. We've got Jenny online with us as well. She says, such an interesting story. So thank you so much as well. And then we've got the Sonia Edjo talking about the power of positive thinking. All of it didn't come on. So definitely.
Yeah, I wanted to add something as well, as you said, for any woman who maybe is in that space where you feel, hopeless. And, I've been there, and I just want to just encourage any woman that is in a place where you feel like, you can't solve the problem, or nothing's going to change, and, things like that. I just want to say that everything changes, and everything can change. And the only time things will change is when you change. And that's I think that's the best advice, but the hardest, because sometimes, like for me, for a long time, I was so attached to my story of being a victim and being so it's like I kept attracting people who would really play out my victim, and then I'd reinforce the victim idea. And then one day I said, no, I'm not a victim, I'm a victor, and I'm actually going to control to the best of my ability what comes into my life, who comes into what I accept and what I don't accept. And I think until you do that, and this is why when you go back to business, until you can do that in your personal relationships, you'll go into business and struggle, because all relationships reflect, like how you are in business is how you're going to be with family. If you can't set good boundaries there, you'll maybe struggle with family. If you're playing a victim at home, you'll probably play a victim in business. And so we just have to take that personal power and say it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. It's not letting it go and say, it doesn't matter. But what it's saying is I'm making a choice that I'm not going to let this story dictate my future.
Yes.
So that's really important.
That's excellent. Wow. Victoria, thank you. If anyone wanted to get hold of you, how could they get in hold of you and connect?
I'm on Facebook. I'm always on Facebook. Well, I'm not even on Facebook as much anymore, because we're just going through some product launches, but a lot of people do connect with me on Facebook. You can join my list, even though it's for my old webinar. So for any women that are interested in connecting or joining some of the webinars that I'm doing around digital business and strategy, you can go to Victoria Wealth Formula.
Yeah.
And but Facebook is a really good place, or Instagram. Instagram is Lady Coach Walker, and Facebook is just Victoria Walker, or my page is Victoria Walker Coaching.
That's excellent. So I've got your details in the description. So if anyone wants to connect, that is absolutely amazing. It's there for you. And definitely, I've got another one that come in and says, "Power Women of Courage." So definitely, thank you so much for joining me on the Mama Knows Best Stories of the Soul. I'm grateful for your story. I'm grateful for your sharing, and I am totally inspired by your story and the things that you're doing right now as well. And thank you so much.
Thank you too. I really appreciate it. Oh, we did it.
And I'll definitely be in touch.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. Oh wow, everybody, that was absolutely amazing. I had a wonderful interview with Lady Walker, yeah, we could call it Lady Victoria Walker. Oh, I am beyond inspired. I really am. It just made me feel that there's nothing in this world I cannot do, and I cannot make anything that, I could not make anything hinder me, anything be an anchor to not going forward. I can. And just hearing Lady Victoria's story just kind of made me think there's no boundaries, there's no barriers, and there's nothing that's definitely not going to stop me from being and living and achieving and all those beautiful things. And one beautiful thing that she mentioned that I think is really important, that even though we do attain to wanting business, bringing money, that is not happiness. Money is a tool to get things, to use things, to make things, so that is not happiness. And there's something else that we need to strive for, bring a balance about, of. And so that was beautiful to actually to hear. And even as well, when she said about making sure that you have to fix yourself or fix anything or heal anything before you could actually even thrive. So before you can thrive in business and thrive in whatever areas that you want to thrive in, we have to seriously, self-love, self-care and healing, and looking at those traumas, in our past, and healing them, or saying it's okay, and knowing it's a part of us, but it doesn't make us, it's not holding us back. So that was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, everyone that's joined me on the Mama Knows Best show. I hope you're inspired as well. This is Stories of the Soul, people sharing their journey and giving us the wisdom, definitely from their experience. So this is Mama Knows Best. And Mama knows best. And our slogan is definitely Mama Knows Best, is celebrating every woman's strength, purpose, and potential through sharing. You can also as well get us on our Mama Knows Best page, and you can see my story as well, where I share my story and I kind of invite you into my world. And kind of this is where it all started, where I was just sharing and saying, we're not speaking. And so you could go to mamaknowsbest.com and sign up there, be a part of the family, come on the journey with us. But I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on the Mama Knows Best Stories of the Soul. Join me next week and every Sunday for an inspiring story. And the message of today is there's no limits. There's no limits, and the only limitation is the ones that you hold for yourself. So release yourself and just fly. And definitely self-love is the beginning, and the beginning, middle, and the end. So loads of love to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the Mama Knows Best show, and I'm really grateful for everyone for being here with me today. So thank you. Bye. Oh wow, that is beautiful. I'm just gonna put on our outro, and definitely make sure you join me tomorrow. Well, join me tomorrow on our Watchtower. We're on Instagram Live and Facebook Live as well, and we're there making sure everyone is okay in this whole lockdown series. So you could join us there. Join us on our social. Muma, MUMA, knows best. And definitely thank you so much to Sonia that says, well done, Mama. Best, amazing show, really inspiring. Thank you all. So definitely, God bless you. Stay safe, and definitely no limits.
I am Chinny McKenzie from Mama Knows Best, and welcome to Stories of the Soul. Each week I'll be speaking to people who have gone through extraordinary circumstances and have come out wiser on the other end. I know that there is healing in sharing, as I have shared my own personal story, and the wisdom comes from that experience. Why not seek the answers of life's experiences and be wiser than having to go through the pain? Join me in learning from Stories of the Soul.
So we're here every single week. Make sure you join us. Make sure you like, subscribe to the page as well. And if there's anything that has helped you, let me know. If I can help in any way as well, get in contact with me at mumaknowsbest.com. God bless you. Speak soon and be safe. Bye now.